Good evening, Congresswoman, and tell me your thoughts on this whole process of contempt of Congress and getting indicted. Who gets it and who doesn't?
Well, this is the problem, is this is just the latest example of how our Department of Justice is being weaponized as a political hit squad to go after the political opponents of the powers that be that are in charge. In our democracy, we, the people, need to be able to trust in the rule of law. We need to be able to trust that institutions like the Department of Justice and our law enforcement entities are truly acting in the public interest, and that we will all be treated fairly and equally under the law, regardless of any other factors, regardless of our political viewpoints, of who we voted for, who we're speaking out for or against. And so the really dangerous thing that we're seeing as a consequence of what's playing out here in this double standard that you've pointed out is the clear message of fear. That if you speak out against us, if you're an opponent of the powers that be, then it's the Department of Justice can go after you and charge you and prosecute you. However, if you are on the other team, if you are in agreement with or liked by those in power, then we're going to treat you kindly, or you'll get off the hook, and you won't be treated in the same way that your political opponents will be. This is the telltale sign of an authoritarian regime and directly undermines our democracy. That is really what's at the core of what's wrong here.
All right. Well, I believe in the process. It's just that the process needs to be applied fairly to everybody. However the chips may fall. If you're going to indict one, then you got to indict them all. If you're not going to indict them, some of them, you can't indict, one or two of them. There's also the issue, and I know that you've pointed this out. There have been people who have lied before Congress, like Brennan and Clapper, yes. Former people high in the intel, and they got a pass. One got to say it was a mistake or something. But is that the rules of when you testify under oath and sort of like who gets it, who doesn't, it seems a little bit uneven.
I'd go even farther to say there is no rules unless they are applied. There are no rules unless they're applied. When you look at James Clapper, for example, he directly lied under oath while testifying before the U.S. Senate about the fact that the NSA, when questioned about the NSA's mass collection program, saying, is the NSA collecting mass data on millions of Americans across the country? He said no. There were never any consequences for that. To my knowledge, he's never apologized for it. And when you look at James Clapper, you look at John Brennan as head of the CIA and how they were illegally spying on Senate staffers, how they were, hacking essentially so that they could read whistleblowers' emails. In these different examples, nothing happened to them. Not only did nothing happen to them, they kept their jobs, they continued on, and now you can see them on television almost every day of the week being touted as these great experts that the country should be listening to on matters of national security and intelligence. It's mind-blowing to see this double standard at play. And again, the more serious issue is how directly this threatens and undermines our democracy and the faith that we need to have in these public institutions and public officials.
The irony sort of the Eric Holder one, when he was Attorney General, is that Congress held him in contempt, and then the decision whether to indict him or not, the irony of it is that that's the decision of the Attorney General, so he'd have to indict himself, which so is passed to a junior of his who made a decision saying that there wasn't a crime or something, that there's executive privilege or something, but didn't pursue it. There was no grand jury investigation. But it's sort of interesting how that in this whole process, it's Congress. You look at Congress and you think, why is Congress having this difficulty? Why is Congress having unable to get people to talk to them? What's going on with Congress?
Well, when you look at what's going on with Congress, again, you are seeing the politicization of very serious issues. You see how lopsided or one-sided this whole January 6th committee is, first of all, to present information without having any opposing views or even discerning questions being asked of a lot of these people who are testifying. There's no surprise here to see how one-sided the outcome is becoming and the response that people are having. That's one example of many, unfortunately, where Congress is more driven by who can be in power and stay in power and go after political opponents than they are actually concerned about presenting the truth, passing legislation that serves the best interests of the people in the country.
actually makes these decisions on whether they should issue a subpoena and seek contempt? Would that be the chairman of a committee, or is that done by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi? Who's running this?
I mean, well, ultimately, everybody who's served in Congress knows that nothing happens in the Democratic side of the House without Nancy Pelosi's go-ahead. If you look on the paper, it says that it is up to the chairman of the committee to make that decision. But Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, and nothing happens without her green light.